Hello, Jason. I thank you very much for joining our session here, and I looked at your background and very impressive, long background in investing, and really a thought leader in the space of innovative investing. So maybe tell me a little bit about how you got started in this investing space in your food and food systems investing.
Yeah, sure. Well, going all the way back to the beginning, I grew up on a organic farm before the term organic really was around, in the Finger Lakes in New York State. And so I had an early connection to taking pride in where food comes from and growing our own food and having a deep connection to the land and the soil. And then I went off and worked in finance and the investment world for a while. And it was probably in the around 2005 period, we had started our family and had kids and realized that we wanted to have our kids have the same connection to nature and food production that we did and how we do that. And so I started to get involved again in agriculture. And I felt that the place that we could do that the best and kind of marrying my personal passion around healthy food access and food systems, innovation and sustainability with my kind of day job of investing, the best place to center that would be on venture investing and kind of that 0 to 1 idea of using innovation and harnessing the talent of entrepreneurs to disrupt some of the negative externalities that our food system has certainly had on both our planet and our human health over the last century, really, but really the last 50 years for sure. And so we started a venture fund in 2010 called Closed Loop Capital, focused on investing in talented entrepreneurs and emerging technologies for the betterment of food and agriculture. And we spent a decade investing in that space. And along the way, we've been afforded the luxury of having a decade, and we've been able to reflect on that, the successes and the failures of that, and some of the challenges still for us to tackle. And that's led to more recently starting a new fund called Third Nature Investments, which is really still going to be focused on food systems investing, but what we're calling earth systems investing as a way to bring a wider aperture to everything we do and how things are interconnected and overlapping. And if you're involved in food systems, you know really quickly that they interact and overlap with all systems, from climate systems to water systems to ocean systems to human health systems, healthcare, et cetera, education even. And so at the end of the day, we will continue to be focused on improving our food system for the 21st century, but are excited about some of the other opportunities that are there going forward and being catalytic as much as we can and signaling to other investors much larger than us of the opportunity set that's present and urgently needed.
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty brilliant, and you've already catalyzed a lot in your existing space, and now there's a big opportunity I see in the algae space to really make a difference, right, on a global scale, and that your leadership in this space, I think, can inspire many other investors to consider it. And so if we talk about some of your algae investing, you've had Atlantic Sea Farms and Algae Net, some of them. So what got you thinking about algae and before you started to invest in them? What was your thoughts on algae before you got to those guys?
Yeah, I would probably say it was accidental. Again, having been very active in the food systems investing space over kind of the 2010 to 20 period, we came across a company focused on microalgae and the potential opportunity for the company to replace artificial dyes and colorants for the food companies. And what I was amazed by and what we were struck by was the efficiency, the reduced amount of resources necessary to use the process and the practices that the company has. And at the end of the day, to reduce pollution and other negative impacts on human health that it had. And so it was really completely accidental that we kind of ran into, for all intents and purposes, the opportunity. And from there, I think it started to create a more formalized enlightenment for us to think about how this application and the use of algae going forward, micro and macro, could fit into A, our thesis, and B, our impact orientation. And so as we moved from closed loop capital as just a food-based investor to Third Nature, which really is looking at some of the same negative impacts that have occurred in the food system. You think about fast food, the negative impacts both on planetary health and human health. You can move over into parallel industries like fast fashion, and we've as a global society created many of the same problems. Over exploitation of workers, extraction of finite resources, natural resources, overuse of water, plastic pollutions go down the list. And so we were really excited from the beginning of Third Nature investments, which under Third Nature Ventures, which is the venture stage, to begin signaling immediately, if we could, and being very proactive around the opportunity for ocean-based investing that doesn't recreate the same problems we've created with terrestrial-based agriculture. And much of that largely is around the opportunity set with seaweed-based investing and the opportunity that many of the applications from human consumption, food, to animal consumption, feed, to biomaterials for textiles, apparel industry, to displacing and potentially forming alternative industries for bioplastics, biomaterials, building materials, et cetera, with various macroalgae at the center of that. So we've been very pleased with the opportunity set, but again, as an investor, this is not philanthropy. We see our impact based on the ability for these companies to scale and create meaningful and durable businesses and business models. And that takes a lot of time, because we not only have to create consumer awareness and education to create demand stimulation going forward, but we also have to work on the cost model as well, and running towards and driving towards a pathway to cost parity, using entirely different infrastructure, growing practices, transportation, logistics, et cetera. And so all of that presents a decade-long work, which we're now in, I guess, year 2 of that. So okay. Long way to go, but a lot of promise.
Yeah, very good. And then, so what was the reasons you decided to get to invest in Atlantic Sea Farms? What did they convince you of their vision?
Yeah, I think I think even before we started looking really proactively at companies, we wanted to kind of understand the space a bit, and we're by no means experts, nearly as much as many in the space. But I think what is exciting about the opportunity is just the co-benefits that are there. There's a lot of talk right now about carbon capture and blue carbon, and that might be possible down the road, but we see immediate applications, particularly in food, as companies, large incumbent food companies and any company really, fashion, go down the list, are going to be not just asked to, but expected to lower not only their carbon footprint, but their ecological footprint within their product process and materials, et cetera, their LCA, so to speak. And with that, I think seaweed essentially and macroalgae presents a massive, massive solution set for these companies to swap out and displace some of the traditional materials that are used. So it could be anything from palm oil to corn-based to soy to cotton. Obviously, petro-based materials is a massive, massive part. And the quicker we can capitalize and support innovative companies and entrepreneurs that are impact oriented to do this, and who have not only the materials but also the business model that allows to drive towards scale, the quicker we can actually make meaningful progress towards a lot of this. And so, for us, it was looking at the levers to pull. Obviously, there are a number of them on the environmental side, from carbon to water use to ocean health to deforestation, and taking some of the pressure off of land use and land-based natural resource use. And then on the human health, obviously, for companies like Atlantic Sea Farms, kelp is, in my view, a superfood. And will it be the next kale? I don't know. That's what we ask ourselves when we invested in the company. We said there's going to be a lot of work to do to generate consumer awareness. And how is it branded and marketed? Is it a sea vegetable? Just the word weed is a difficult thing to consider eating. We don't eat weeds that grow in our garden. We despise weeds. And so seaweed is potentially, but I'm not a brand expert, but I think that, working with companies and thinking about the feedback loops that they're getting. Consumer demand is big, but at the end of the day, it's a superfood. It's high in, iron, antioxidants, potassium, magnesium, et cetera. And so I think at the end of the day, massive, massive application opportunities just on the food side for sure. So that really was the beginning. So as I mentioned, we invested in a microalgae company in 2017, and then we invested in Atlantic Sea Farms in 2020. And then more recently, Algae, which is one of our first non-food investments. And we're very excited about the opportunity for them to create innovation in the fashion and textile industry, and probably industrial applications down the road as well, to replace and reduce the use of petro-based synthetic materials for those industries. And I think certainly indicating many more opportunities from there.
Yeah, so it does seem to me that of anybody I've spoken to about the algae industry, you have a very big picture of all the things that could be done, right? Not only on the food side, but on textiles and a range of things. Taking a look at the wide range of what algae can do, and from my observation is that there's a resurgence of investment in algae going on right now. And that, do you see that it continue to grow and become really a big space, like as in many multi-billion-dollar space?
Yeah, I mean, again, to use the alternative protein example, I mean, when we invested, a decade ago, there was, under 100 million annually going into the entire global investment space, and now last year alone was 6 billion. So that's tremendous, scale up appetite capital that's going into those spaces and innovation. And I think I see a lot of the same makings. I really do. And if you look at kind of around 2016, 17 in food systems investing, there was starting to be more and more investors coming into the space, but it wasn't formalized yet. Yeah. It was still undercapitalized, underappreciated, and fragmented. Yeah. Exactly where we are right now, to me, with macroalgae and microalgae, both. To me, yeah. And at the end of the day, what we call ocean-based investing, with kind of a more sustainable, regenerative mindset to it. There's starting to be investors in the space, but I wouldn't say that there's a strong thesis around it, or it's the only thing that they're doing. It's a portion, just like us. It's only a portion of what we're doing. But do we have intention for it to be a higher percentage? Absolutely, we have intention, because we see it as a strong opportunity.
Now, here's a thought for you: is that from your perspective that we really have to improve our systems, our food systems and things like that. And
Yeah.
algae has a huge potential. And currently, right now, we have a climate change crisis underway and a food crisis. Okay, and
Among others.
and we've also got some really good research that have been out there, like documented about what algae can do and what's been demonstrated. And we've also got some good documentaries like what Deutsche Welle has done. Now, my thinking is that a marketing campaign by the algae industry, where they are showing things in small bites and having short animated videos and getting that out there, that seems to me something that could really accelerate and create a self-reinforcing loop, like it's happened in plant-based proteins. That if the algae industry worked together, we could create a lot of excitement about investing in algae, how much money you can make, and all the things that we can do to fix the world. Is that it could be, in my mind, it could be a game changer, and this whole thing could be accelerated.
Completely agree. I think, again, there's examples that you could point to. I think, first of all, I think Netflix does an amazing job at highlighting and bringing to the collective consciousness of consumers,
Yeah.
obviously mostly in the West, but potentially globally, really illustrative ways of climate change, but in ways that can provide people with actionable change and solutions versus just the doomsday scenario. And I guess to your earlier question, Atlantic Sea Farms, essentially is a vertically integrated kelp production company that has created their own brand and CPG brand. But they started in a space that was most possible, which was creating little frozen cubes that you can put in your smoothie, and fermented products like kimchi, and they have a beet sichi. At the end of the day, those are very niche channels, right? And so now they just launched Sea Veggie Burger. Again, kelp is not protein, but it's a very nutritious product, and it's a mass channel, right? I mean, everybody on a daily basis needs to eat meals that have center of the plate, kind of protein, and I think going forward, this is, you look at the snack category, you look at the baked goods and bakery category. These are all spaces that have not only massive negative health implications for humans, but environmental implications. And so I think really the next chapter is, how do we start to create meaningful product categories for kelp to be incorporated in that are not there yet. And I think a lot of that is going to take, I think the great news is there's a tailwind. Corporations know that consumers are watching. We have social media at our fingertips that's more and more transparent. They have pressure on them to create better products that are better for you and better for the planet. And to me, there's no doubt that that kelp and seaweed more generally is going to be a big part of that solution set that they can point to and utilize.
Yeah. So that's a great vision. And what occurs to me is that the people that I'm a big fan of Netflix's Explainer series. It seemed to me that they should do an explainer series about this and interview you. That's what I think should happen.
That would be hugely boring. I would rather see beautiful kelp forests underwater and the glow of sunlight coming through the water, and just make it much. And at the end of the day, that's to me what is necessary. Is it has to be inspiring. It has to be compelling. And we need to use some of the learnings that we've had from alternative protein. At the end of the day, that movement is a decade in, and they still don't have the taste down, and they still don't have the cost down. And I think most people are willing and ready to be better consumers, as long as they don't have to sacrifice on taste and costs, right, and price. And so I think these are things that we have to continue to put at the middle of the conversation, because otherwise, we're not going to be moving to scale. It's going to stay niche, and we know we need to move to scale. So as we find applicable opportunities, we have to have the discipline, the business discipline, to marry up with the kind of the heart side of it, the head and the heart. The impact side is there, great, but you've got to have traction and you've got to be able to scale that in a way that departs from many of the old practices of the 20th century that we know have gotten us into this mess to begin with.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Well, that's pretty brilliant. I think so. That's very good. Very thoughtful overview. So I'll tell you what. Well, I'll look forward to if you have time to join us on the question period, and then I think many people will be interested to hear more of what you have to say.
For
Okay.
sure. Yeah, that sounds terrific. Very much
Okay,
looking
that's
forward
great.
to it.
Well,
Yeah.
and so thank you very much.